As of now, Jimi Hendrix is once again being talked about by many people. They finally said what music fans had known for more than 50 years. On American stages, things are getting really big for the first time since COVID. Artists want to be a part of it, and one big name is even coming out of retirement to do it. The internet is going crazy over what's going on with Jimi Hendrix right now. On November 27, 1942, he was born in Seattle. Those two people had a child. They fought a lot and had money problems. James was born when Lizzie was only 17 years old. Al was in the Army in Alabama. He was locked up for more than a month and couldn't go home when he asked for time off. Jimmy had a rough childhood. My dad and mom both drank a lot. Their house wasn't stable. The government took 4 of his brothers and cared for them. James was sent to California for a short time to stay with a family friend. In 1945, when Al got home from the war, he took Jimmy back to Seattle. In 1951, Al and Lucille broke up. James and Leon, Al's younger brother, were in his care. Lucy passed away in 1958 from liver cancer. The boy was 15 years old. Al told the boys they couldn't go to the funeral. Instead, he gave them alcohol and said, "This is how men deal with loss." Music helped Jimmy feel better at that time. He had always been interested in it. He used to carry a broom around school like it was a guitar. A social worker saw him and asked the school to buy him one, but nothing happened. When he was 15, he was helping his dad clean out a house and found the broken ukulele with only one string. He could keep it, the woman who lived there told him. Jimmy learned how to play by listening to Elvis Presley songs. After his mother died, Al finally got a real guitar. It was his escape route. He learned on his own while early rock and blues music played in the background. In 1959, when he was 17, he dropped out of Garfield High School. Music was all he cared about. He played in bands in the area, like the Velvet Ones and the Rocking Kings. He didn't have a steady job, so it was hard for him to pay his bills. He sometimes slept in cars that were empty, but he never stopped having fun. He paid a lot of attention to other artists. Butch Snipes used his teeth to play the guitar. After Jimmy copied the move, it became a part of his act. He was 19 years old when he was caught riding in a stolen car in 1961. He spent a week in jail. He could join the Army or go to jail. After he joined the Army, he was sent to the 101st AC Division. A lot of people knew the Screaming Eagles, which made Hendrix like them. It was in this division that the D-Day landings took place during World War II. His first training took place at Fort Ord in California. He finished training and became a private in August 1961. After that, he was sent to Kentucky's Fort Campbell. It was hard for him to be in the Army. He didn't like the rules or how things were set up. It broke his heart to be in the service, and he wrote to his dad to tell him the only thing that kept him going was his Red Dan electro guitar, which he named Betty Jean. He played it all the time. Hendrix met another soldier at Fort Campbell named Bill Cox. Cox played the bass. They quickly became good friends after meeting through music. They formed a band called the King Casuals. They began putting on shows close to the base and sometimes in nearby towns. He started making plans for the future while he was still in the military. He only served for 13 months before leaving the Army in 1962. They said it was because he hurt his ankle on his 26th parachute jump. The Army told him that his body could no longer handle it, but other records show that he didn't do a good job. During his shifts, he slept, failed shot drills, and did badly in physical training. He also didn't do his bed checks. Some news stories even said he seemed gay, which was a reason to free someone at the time. Even with all of this, Hendrix still got a fair release. After Hendrix got out of the war, they went to Clarksville, Tennessee. They were excited to keep making music. They played in little fields and kept the name King Casuals. This was the time before Hendrix made his own style. He turned the guitar over so that the right hand was facing down when he played. He also learned tricks like playing with his teeth in the back of his head. It was under a lot of stress to entertain. His words, "Down there you have to play with your teeth or else you get shot," were heard by many. They thought of more than just skill. That's what he meant. They wanted a show. You weren't asked back if you weren't interesting. Some band leaders didn't like how flashy he was and thought he was trying to be the center of attention. His show kept getting better, though. From 1962 to 1965, he played guitar as a backup on the Chitlin circuit. This was a list of places in the South, Midwest, and East Coast where black artists could play during racist times. Things were not going well. Most of the time, they didn't get paid at all or very little. Bob Rush, who played on the tour too, said that they were sometimes paid with food. Hendrix didn't know what to do in January 1964. He had played behind other artists for years, staying out of their way and following their rules. He now wants more control over his job and music. After that, he made a decision.
He quit the backup jobs and moved into the Hotel Teresa in Harlem. That's where he met Lithophane Pridgen. Because she was in the Harlem music scene, he became her boyfriend. She helped him and told him to keep going. He had a place to stay. Around that time, he also met Arthur and Albert Allen. For a long time, their family went to clubs in Harlem. Hendrix started to play in small venues and fill in for other bands all over the city to get known. In February 1964, he took part in the open night event at the Apollo Theater. He was the first one there. He felt better after that. That proved he could lead a large group by himself. Soon after that win, a friend from the Joe Tex band helped him get an audition with Ronnie Isley. He really liked Hendrix, so he hired him to play guitar in the band that backed up the Isley Brothers. Right away, he said yes. It was a big improvement. From March 1964 to April 1965, Hendrix recorded his first track. It was called Testify and had 2 parts. That song had the Isley Brothers on it. The song didn't do well on the charts when it came out in June. Still, it was a start. He sang on the May song Mercy Mercy by Don Covey with his guitar. It came out in August and made it to number 35 on the Billboard chart. They went on tour with the Isleys for many months in 1964. It got old for him to play the same set every night by October, though. He quit the band because he wanted to do something else. Not long after that, he joined the Upsetters, Little Richard's traveling band. In February 1965, they went to Los Angeles. Hendrix and Little Richard recorded a single there called I Don't Know What You Got, But It's Got Me. The song was written by Don Covey and came out on VJ Records. For 1 week, it was only number 92 on the charts. At that point, Little Richard wasn't as well known. Rosalie Brooks and Pink Floyd met at the Wilcox Hotel in Hollywood, where they were both staying. He was asked to play guitar on her song, A-side, My Diary, and B-side, UT. Both songs were written by Arthur Lee. His guitar work can be heard on both songs, and he even got to know Lee while they were recording. After getting to know Lee and his band Love, Hendrix became a big fan of them. In July 1965, Hendrix was seen on TV for the first time. That is the first video that we know of Hendrix performing live. On Nashville's WLAC-TV's Night Train, he played with Little Richard's band and backed up singers Buddy and Stacy on the song Shotgun. But things were not going well with Little Richard. They fought a lot. Hendrix liked being on stage and showing off. He wore flashy clothes that didn't match Richard's taste. At the end of July, Richard's brother Robert fired Hendrix from the band. The date of his first record deal was July 27. It was with Juggy Murray at Sue Records and Copa, a company that does marketing. After that, he made another song and briefly joined the Isley Brothers again. It was Move Over and Let Me Dance and Have You Ever Been Disappointed on the Other Side. Hendrix met Curtis Knight at a hotel at the end of the year. Knight was in charge of the Squires, an R&B group. They let him live with them for 8 months. How Would You Feel was cut in October 1965, and Welcome Home was put on the B-side. But Hendrix made a 2-year deal with Sue Records on October 15, 1965, and Welcome Home was put on the B-side. He then signed another one. This one lasted 3 years, and was with a man named Ed Chalpin. Things between them lasted longer than the deal. Hendrix had trouble with it as his career went on. Between gigs with Curtis Knight and the Squires, Hendrix played with other groups. Those 3 bands, along with Joey D, went on tour together. Some friends, and he made a song. That track was split up into. Hendrix also played on Ray Sharp's song Help Me. Hey, in 1966 he got his first credit for writing a song. He wrote 2 folk songs called Hornet's Nest and Knock Yourself Out. Curtis Knight and the Squires released each one as a single. By 1966, Hendrix was ready to leave the R&B scene. His trip took him to Greenwich Village in New York. That spot made me feel very creative. It had new songs, artists, and ideas. Hendrix was hired to play at Café Wah, in that area on MacDougal Street. His new band is called Jimmy James and the Blue Flames. Randy California used to be in the group and later started the band Spirit. The Blue Flames played all over New York. Those shows changed the way he sounds. On stage, he started to try out new looks and moves. In September 1966, the band played its last show together at Manhattan's Café Au Go-Go. They were singing background for a singer named John Hammond at that time. Jimi Hendrix just about had nothing when he got to London Airport on September 24th. He borrowed $40 and came with a guitar, hair curlers, and a change of clothes. The airport was now called Heathrow. His life would change because of this trip, but he didn't know it yet. At the start of that summer, he did small shows in New York City as Jimmy James. One night at Café Wah, Chas Chandler, who used to play bass for the band Animals, saw him play in Greenwich Village. Chandler was looking to hire some new people. He knew he had found something special after seeing Hendrix play. After Jimmy got to London, it only took 12 days for the Jimi Hendrix Experience to come together. On October 6, 1966, it happened. Chandler quickly got bands to show up. He went to try out for the new Animals and met Noel Redding there. Jimi liked that Redding knew how to make blues songs flow into each other. He also liked how his hair was styled. Chandler asked Mitch Mitchell to get the drums. Mitchell had just been fired from his job with Georgie Fame and the Blue Flames. They became friends because they both liked blues and rhythm and blues music. Chandler also helped to change Jimi's look. He said the name Jimi should be spelled Jimmy. It made the name stand out and changed the way it looked. The band started playing right away. After only 1 week, they went on tour with Johnny Hallyday, a French singer, for 4 shows in France. On October 23, they recorded their first song, Hey Joe, at Delaney Studios in London. James hadn't been in England for long, but it wasn't easy to record. They were having trouble with their loud Marshall amps. There was also Jimi's fear of singing. The single's B-side, Stone Free, was recorded on November 2. It was Jimi's first song that he wrote with the band. He told Jimi to write it so that he could make money from selling the rights to print it. They were very good, but it was hard for them to get a record deal. People who worked as agents for The Who finally got them signed to their new record label, Track Records. Rubber Soul put out Track's first record on December 16th. This was since the band was brand new. Hey Joe went straight to number 41 in the UK. It reached number 6 on the chart and stayed there for 10 weeks. He was also on TV shows like Ready Steady Go. The song became more well-known after being played on Top of the Pops. He played guitar as a backup in small bars in New York just a few months ago. He was famous now. Chandler Chaz had a set of plans. He wanted the right people to see Hendrix play. He got there on September 30, 1966, and Chandler took him to see Cream play at London Polytechnic on October 1, 1966. When he played Killing Floor by Howlin' Wolf, everyone was shocked. Bruce Springsteen wasn't on stage. After the song, he was shocked and kept quiet. He lit a cigarette and told Chandler, "You never told me he was that good." By the middle of November, Jimi was putting on shows at the Bag O' Nails Club. Some well-known people who were there were Paul McCartney, John Lennon, Mick Jagger, Jeff Beck, Pete Townshend, and Brian Jones. What they were seeing was a mystery to them. Kevin remembered the scene and said that everyone was so shocked that they were yelling. James and his girlfriend Kathy Etchingham then moved into 34 Montague Square. The apartment was owned by Ringo Starr. Chandler and his partner also lived there. Jimi played in fancy bars near Buckingham Palace, such as the Scotch of St. James. There was a table for each of the Rolling Stones and the Beatles. Chandler was done with what he had to do. He made Hendrix the song that everyone in London talked about in just 2 months. Still, things did not go as planned. He took his music very seriously and had strong ideas about how it should sound. Chandler told him to turn down the amps when they were making the first tracks for Hey Joe. That made them throw a big fit. He yelled that Jimi shouldn't work there because it was too dangerous. He advised going back to New York. There was no anger in Chandler. He had just left the visa office with Jimi's passport and return flight ticket in his pocket. He put them on the mixing desk and said, "Now go back to America." In another version, he may have just said, "Piss off." They agreed on how to work together after that. Jimi laughed and said, "Okay, you called my bluff." Jimi was eager to be free. Chandler left him alone and made sure everything went as planned. At the Monterey Pop Festival on June 18, 1967, it was a warm night. Most people in the U.S. still didn't know who Hendrix was, though. In London, he was well known. He knew this show could make a big difference. Before the Who went home, they broke their instruments. Jimi had to do things that were even more important. Before he went on, someone on stage helped him get lighter fluid. It was hidden behind his amp. People in the crowd met him through Rolling Stone's Brian Jones. At the end of his set, Jimi played Wild Thing. He got on his knees, turned his guitar over, and said into the mic, "Man, I'm going to give up something I really love." He then lit his Stratocaster on fire with lighter fluid. 7 times it broke and he threw the hot pieces into the crowd. A photographer named Ed Karaeff caught the exact moment. It became one of the most famous rock pictures ever. After that night, Hendrix became well known in his own country. Robert Christgau, a music writer, said that this show made a new strong guitar style that hasn't been matched since. Also, Jimi's first record was a big deal. Around the World came out on May 12, 1967 in the UK. For 33 weeks it was number 2 on the British charts, just behind Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. The UK version didn't have Purple Haze, Hey Joe, or The Wind Cries Mary. Instead, it had bluesy songs like Red House that showed where Hendrix came from. James didn't like the UK record cover. Reprise Records released a new version of the record in the US on August 23, 1967, after he did well at Monterey. It came out in the US with new weird art on the cover by Carl Ferris and different songs. The hit songs were on this version, but Red House, Remember, and Can You See Me were taken off. There were only 65 copies of Purple Haze in the US, but it was a huge hit on underground FM radio. It made it to number 5 on the Billboard album chart and stayed there for 106 weeks. It also spent 76 weeks in the top 40.
It was also number 10 on the Billboard R&B chart for 70 weeks. It was a lot of money to spend $20,000 on record ads back then. In 1968, Jimi Hendrix had a lot of fans. On October 16th, Electric Ladyland came out. His first record that he made from start to finish. It came in 2 parts. It was the only song he ever had that got to number 1 on the Billboard charts. He had come a long way with songs like Crosstown Traffic, All Along the Watchtower by Bob Dylan, and Voodoo Child's Slight Return. Watchtower was his only top 20 hit on the Billboard Hot 100. Dylan said Hendrix heard things in the song that no one else did. Things were also getting worse because of this record. It was no longer Chas Chandler's job to bring Jimi to England in the first place. His wish was to have more power. He liked the sound so much that he played bass most of the time instead of Noel Redding. It was getting too much for him to want to be perfect. In 1968, he and his partner Michael Jeffrey bought the Generation Club in Greenwich Village. To begin with, they meant to make it a music venue again. He was spending almost $300,000 a year on recording time, they learned. That's the reason they chose to start their own business. It was called Electric Lady Studios. Engineer John Storick made it to fit Jimi's style. The rooms didn't have any rough spots. There were round windows, soft lights, and bright paintings. It was meant to go well with art and peace. Things went wrong with the project, though. Jimi was making up to $100,000 a show at Madison Square Garden, but it wasn't enough. By the end of 1970, it had taken twice as long and almost $1 million to finish. On June 15, 1970, that was Jimi's first show there. It was cool to play with Traffic's Steve Winwood and Chris Wood. The next day, he recorded Nightbird Flying. It was open for business on August 25th, but he had already left for England. He didn't come back. After the studio was done, he never saw it again. The Jimi Hendrix Experience ended that summer. That June 29, 1969 show was their last one. It was at the Denver Pop Festival. The event took place at Mile High Stadium over 3 days. It was $6 a day or $15 for the whole weekend. It had music on it by artists like Joe Cocker and Creedence Clearwater Revival. That day, James Brown told the press that Billy Cox would be his new bassist. He was in the army with Cox. Noel Redding and Mitch Mitchell didn't know that the band was on its way out. A fight broke out between about 2,500 people trying to get into the stadium and police. Police used tear gas to keep the crowd in check. There was a gust of gas in the stadium. Jimi and the band had to leave the stage quickly. They got away in a panel van, but fans quickly surrounded it out of fear. The roof began to cave in. Mitch Mitchell said after the fact that they were sure they were going to lose. The next day, Noel Redding flew back to England. At that point, the first experience was over. He played Woodstock in the fall of that year. He was supposed to end the show on August 17, 1969, Sunday night, but it ran late. He didn't take the stage until 8 a.m. A lot of people had gone. About 30,000 of the 400,000 people who went to Woodstock were still there. A fight broke out behind the scenes over whether Jimi should play the Star-Spangled Banner. Michael Jeffrey said Jimi didn't want to, so he didn't. He was afraid that the song would cause another fight like the one in Dallas. Jimi was told to do it by music producer Jerry Morrison, even though Jeffrey wasn't there anymore. He played the national song in a way that no one had ever heard it before when he went on stage. His guitar made noises like bombs, alarms, and screams. I will never forget how loud and strange it was. Some people thought it had something to do with politics. Jimi told me it wasn't later. He said it was how he felt. In 1966, Jimi Hendrix's life started to change. That year was the first time he took LSD. From that point on, no one had ever heard his music before it changed. The man's girlfriend, Kathy Etchegam, said that he began having dreams and wanted to turn them into music. When he tried to explain them to other people, they often didn't make sense. His thoughts had nothing to do with the real world, but they came to life when he played the guitar. He kept going through the door that LSD had made possible. He told the truth. In 1967, he began taking acid at shows. That night, he set his guitar on fire. It shocked everyone and was all over the news. But it wasn't just for show. It showed how far he was ready to go. He wasn't just interested in music. He took LSD all the time as the 1960s came to an end. It was the same with amphetamines, cocaine, weed, and hemp. On tour, he always had these drugs with him. They changed the sound of him. It's where songs like Purple Haze came from. On songs like 1983, strange stories that sounded like dreams were told. I Should Become a Mermaid. Biographer Charles Cross said that Jimi was one of the few famous people who was very involved with drugs. His music showed how crazy his life was. But he had another side that not many people saw. A lot of the time, Hendrix drank too much. After he drank, something changed. People who knew him said he got mad. There was no more quiet and peace. One of the worst times was in the late 1960s. The cut above her eye needed stitches. He began to drink early. When he got out of the army in July 1962, he spent almost all of his $400 cash on drinking. Some people told him he was stupid when he was drunk, he said, and things got worse as he became more well-known. He was arrested more than once while on trips for getting into fights while drunk. He changed according to people who knew him well. It changed her moods and sometimes made her attack, which wasn't the person people saw on stage. After that, he was caught in Toronto. His plane touched down at Toronto International Airport on May 3rd. When customs officers stopped him, they looked in his bag and found small amounts of marijuana and heroin. At 1:30 p.m., they jailed him. Late that same day, he was freed on $10,000 bail after tests proved the drugs were real. That night, he put on a show at Maple Leaf Gardens. The charges against him were very serious, so he changed the words to, "As soon as I get out of jail, I want to see her." In court on May 5th, he was charged with 2 counts of having drugs on him. For each charge, the maximum jail time was 20 years. Noel Redding and Mitch Mitchell, 2 of his friends, said after the fact that they knew about the planned bust the day before. They believed someone put the drugs there. For his court date in December 1969, Hendrix had to cut his hair short and put on a suit. The trial lasted 3 days. The jury thought about it for 8 hours and decided he wasn't guilty. Outside the building, he smiled and waved a peace sign. "Canada has given me the best Christmas present I ever had," he told me. Things didn't get better even though they were free. On September 3rd, 1970, Hendrix arrived in Gothenburg, Sweden. That day, Eva Sundquist met him. She told him that her son James was his child. The kid was born on January 5th. She said they were at his show in Stockholm in January 1969 together. This kind of claim had been made before, but this time it was even worse. It was already late. Hendrix was high on drugs and his mind was spent. That night's show was a mess. He forgot what to say. He changed songs. Some people said he looked like he had no idea where he was. It was over after 2 weeks. On the night of September 17th, his girlfriend Monica Danneman was with him. They drank wine in her Samarkand hotel room in London. Around 3 a.m. they got back, after having fun at a party, and she said they talked until about 7 a.m. and then went to sleep. He then took 9 Vesperax pills to help him sleep. It was 18 times the normal amount. After that, the drug was banned in many places because it was too strong. Hendrix was sick in the days before he died. He was worn out and probably had the flu. He didn't trust the people around him as much either. After getting stuck in the music business, he didn't know what to do with his life. He was only 27 years old. People like Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, Brian Jones, and later Kurt Cobain and Amy Winehouse were in the Sad 27 Club. It happened on September 18, 1970. At 11:18 a.m., the group saw that the door was open. A gas fire was still going. He was lying down. He had puke all over him. He couldn't breathe at all. Monica said she never left his side, so it was strange that she wasn't there. Rick Jones, who drives an ambulance, said it was the worst thing he had ever seen. The poop was very dark, almost black, and it went through the pillow all the way. Hendrix was taken to St. Mary Abbott's to get better. Doctors could no longer save his life. The police said he was dead. There were still thoughts. A doctor named John Bannister said that Hendrix's lungs and stomach let out a lot of red wine. He believed Hendrix had died of drowning at the hotel or on the way to the hospital, but toxicology tests showed that his blood didn't have much alcohol in it. A private group did a study in 1992 because of new questions. Scotland Yard looked into the case once more and talked to everyone who had a part in it. In 1993, the case was once more closed. There wasn't a single clear answer found. Hendrix is once again in the news in the year 20. He died more than 50 years ago, but many people still remember him. The state of Washington gave him the Medal of Merit on March 8. This is the best award the government can give to a simple person. The event took place at the Capitol building in Olympia. The award was given by Governor Bob Ferguson, Vice Governor Denny Heck, and Secretary of State Steve Hobbs. It was given to Hendrix's family and to the Museum of Pop Culture, which has a whole show about his life and music. Hendrix is well known and respected in the state and around the world. Governor Ferguson said that he was one of the most important musicians ever, that Hendrix changed music in a way that went beyond Washington and helped shape music today. He said there was something else going on in the road besides this award in Olympia. It had been 5 years since the Experience Hendrix tour last, but they are back now. Artists on the tour play songs by Hendrix and talk about his work. The tour goes all over North America. Tonight, March 21st, the show is at the Chicago Theater.
It's a 33-day tour of big cities across the U.S. A lot of famous people are on the tour. On stage are both Kenny Wayne Shepherd and Zakk Wylde, who you may know from Pantera and Black Label Society. There is also Eric Johnson in the group. In the same group as Marcus King are Devon Alden, Samantha Fish, Christone Kingfish Ingram, and Samantha Fish. Each artist has their own sound, but they all work together to pay tribute to Hendrix's music. A very important person will be at the last show on April 12th. The show will end at the Fox Theater in Atlanta. A big name in blues music, Buddy Guy will be back on stage that night. He is 88 years old and said he was going to stop traveling last year. There is nothing else like this show. However, Buddy Guy is the only person on the list that Hendrix himself said had an effect on him. This makes it even more important. Buddy Guy put down some writing about what happened. He said he could still remember meeting Jimi Hendrix in a New York club in This time he's back to honor Hendrix with one last show. John McDermott is in charge of collecting for the business. He just now said that the music is still the most important thing to them. Because of Hendrix, he said the company runs